Cedar chests, how to make them ******. Red Cedar, Austin, Texas. Cedar chests, how to make them. Ralph F. Windoes, formerly instructor of manual training, Davenport High School, Davenport, Iowa. Author of Shop Sketching, Architectural Drawing for Secondary Schools, Drafting Instruments and How to Use Them, etc. Second edition, enlarged. Milwaukee, The Bruce Publishing Company. Copyright 1918 to 1921 by the Bruce Publishing Company. Preface. Believing that the popularity of the cedar chest as a cabinet-making project has reached considerable proportions, the author has endeavored to embody under one cover all information necessary to the design and construction of a variety of chests. In addition to this mechanical aspect of the work, he has presented some information of educational character on red cedar as a wood, and something of interest concerning the development of the chest. As information of this character has been lacking in the past, he hopes that the book will meet with the approval of teachers who will use it in their work. Acknowledgement is due to the Forest Service for the use of the illustrations in Chapter 1, to two of the author's students, Otto J. Tgen and James A. Kelly, for the great assistance rendered by them in the preparation of the drawings, and to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York City, for permission to reproduce photographs of historic chests in its collections. R.F.W. Contents. Chapter page, I Red Cedar 9.2 Cedar chests 15.3 How to build a simple chest 17.4 Cedar chest designs 31v The finishing of cedar 78.6 Copper trimmings 82.7 Matting boxes 90. This chest came over on the Mayflower. Chapter 1 Red Cedar. The botanical name for red cedar suitable for chest construction is Juniperus virginiana, or southern juniper, as it is familiarly known. Commercially, it is sold as Tennessee red cedar. There are other cedar woods, but none of them should be used in chests if the great advantages of cedar are to be derived, and especially should the western cedar be avoided, as it is very common and easy to purchase, yet it has no value as a wood for cedar chest construction. Southern juniper may aptly be called the wood imperishable, since, under ordinary conditions, it will never decay. Placed as shingles with copper nails, there is little doubt but that it will last for ages, or until the attacks of rain and wind have weathered it away. Until recent years, one of its greatest uses has been in telegraph poles, fence posts, greenhouses, etc., where constant contact with damp earth would soon rot away a less durable wood. Now, since the rapid rise in the value of red cedar has almost prohibited its use, cypress, the wood eternal, has largely succeeded it. Log houses of red cedar. When America was settled, one of its most valued natural resources was found in the red cedar belt of the South. Settlers migrating to this region found the straight cedar logs perfectly suited to cabin construction. Consequently, the best trees were felled and utilized in the building of America's first homes. As times went on and the settlers prospered, the logs were taken from the houses and assembled into barns, frame construction taking their place in the homes. Today, these old logs, perfectly preserved, are purchased by lumbermen, as some of the most select red cedar lumber is manufactured from them. A great many of these old logs have been cut up into lead pencil slabs, as cedar is the best wood that has ever been found for lead pencils. It is straight-grained and easily cut with a knife, the two necessary characteristics. Another source for pencil supply has been found in the rail fences, so common in the South, practically all of which were constructed of split cedar rails. This wood is so highly prized by pencil makers that many fences have been bought up at such prices that modern fences have taken their places, leaving a comfortable profit for the owner. Where red cedar abounds. The geographical range of red cedar is very wide and hard to define. Roughly speaking, it can be found westward to Minnesota, south to Florida, and southwest through Texas. The finest forests were originally found in Middle Tennessee, in Davidson, Rutherford, Bedford, Marshall, and Warren counties, with a considerable quantity in the breaks of the Cumberland Plateau, and in eastern Tennessee. There was considerable red cedar also in southern Virginia, North Alabama, and in Georgia, while some is found in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountains. Figure 1. Red cedar and loblolly pine, occasional scrub pine in the background. Southern Maryland. These belts are still the most reliable source of supply, some of them having been cut over a great many times. Second growth, although it is stunted, more knotty, and contains more sapwood than first growth, finds a market in fence posts, and a very little in furniture construction. Depletion of the cedar supply. The supply of southern juniper in this country, both first and second growth, is rapidly being depleted. There is no reason why this condition should exist. The early settlers, anxious to clear their lands, destroyed it ruthlessly, it is true, yet it lends itself so readily to reforestation that it is difficult to surmise why steps to maintain its constant supply were not taken long ago. About 200 years ago, a Swedish naturalist, Peter Kalm, after traveling over the settled portion of the country, wrote at some length upon the splendid qualities of red cedar, and prophesied its early extinction unless steps were taken to replenish the supply. Figure 2. Red cedar. Longitudinal section, magnified 76 times. In Poor Richard's Almanac for 1749, Benjamin Franklin urged the people to plant and foster the growth of red cedar. He was of the opinion that the rapid clearing of the land, the constant need of wood for fuel would soon destroy the slow-growing oaks and other hardwoods, and that it would be to our advantage to endeavor to raise some other kind of timber that will grow faster or come sooner. The red cedar, a species of juniper, I take to be the most profitable tree for fencing and several other uses that we can raise in our country, considering how easily it may be raised from seeds, its readiness to grow on most kinds of soil, its quick growth, the profits it will afford while it is arriving at maturity, and the long duration of the wood when grown to a proper size for the materials we want for our several occasions in husbandry and building. I know of no other tree that will grow so well on such different soils as this will, for upon our sandy beaches, which are nothing but beds of sand, they grow as thick as possible, from whence many thousand posts for fencing are brought into Pennsylvania and York governments. And I have seen, in a great many swamps upon a branch of the Susquehanna, great trees growing, near 18 inches diameter, 70 feet high, and very straight. And the inhabitants near the mountains, upon Hudson Bay, make a great use of them for making large hovels or barracks to put their corn in before it is threshed. They will grow well in high gravelly or clay soil, in rich or poor, or even upon a rock, if there be but half a foot of land or earth upon it. It is much to be valued for its quick growth from seed, the little sap and much durable heart, which is acquired sooner than any tree that we can raise on common land. Indeed, the mulberry and locust are of quick growth in very rich land, but not upon poor. Figure 3. 50-year-old cedar, Job Swamp, Ocean County, New Jersey. That the predictions of Kalm and Franklin have been substantiated is a well-known fact, since the cedar of commercial size grown in the eastern and New England states, of which they spoke, has long since been exhausted. Neither knew of the extensive cedar growths in the south and west, yet the original growth of these regions is very near exhaustion. Figure 4. Mature cedar break a long road. No underbrush, but the young cedar seedlings fill all gaps. Marble Falls, Burnett County, Texas. Luckily, our efficient Forest Service is at this time doing everything in its power to encourage reforestation of the cedar tracts, and the future of the red cedar tree looks more promising than the present. Characteristics of red cedar. As has been intimated, red cedar is a very durable wood. It is also light, straight-grained, does not warp readily, will dry out rapidly, takes a beautiful finish, and has a most pleasant aroma, but one which is moth and insect repelling. Moths shun the red cedar, as other insects shun the pennyroyal herb. These favorable characteristics all combine to make red cedar the ideal wood for chest construction. Chests must be light, yet strong, good to look upon when finished, of such flat stock that the finish on one side alone will not cause the wood to warp, and they must be moth-proof. Southern juniper furnishes all of these desirable points, and in addition its pleasant aroma permits the immediate wearing of apparel taken from the cedar chest without airing, as must be done with garments protected by moth balls. Small carved wood chest of Venetian make, 16th century. Chapter 2. Cedar chests. The chest, or coffer, has had a varied existence. Its present popularity was preceded by a period in which new chests were a rarity. Previous to this time, taking us back to our great-grandmother's days, the chest, in the form of the dower chest, was the proud possession of every girl with vision. Why its popularity suffered is hard to surmise, unless it was relegated as being old-fashioned, and, therefore, obsolete. In recent years those in society, who make things fashionable, have restored it to its place of usefulness and beauty, and today there are very few girls whose possessions do not include a chest. Old Italian chests long before the era of convenient furniture, chests, or coffers, were the one article of utility in every home. In them was kept clothing, valuables of every description, and even foodstuffs. In early days, these chests were crude, ugly affairs, made for utility alone. Later, especially in Italy, they developed into articles of beauty. This development reached its height at the time of the Renaissance, when the greatest artists of the day took up the decorating of them. Carving and painting, furnished to the wealthy at great expense, produced articles whose magnificence is astounding. These beautiful chests were usually presented to Italian brides-to-be, who kept their dowry of rich velvets, magnificent brocade, and other treasures of maidenhood safely under their covers. With the ever-changing ideas of humanity, the beautiful chest lost its popularity, and some wonderful specimens of Renaissance artistry were relegated to the scrap heap. A few were saved, perhaps for the associations they suggested, eventually to be prized and handed down from generation to generation, preserved in the national museums, or homes where wealth permits the collection of old furniture. New England chests. In quaint old New England, the 17th-century bride considered her future happiness to depend largely upon the contents of her dower chest. Every maid had one, sometimes more than one, in which she assiduously collected her trousseau, her beautiful handmade linens, her gorgeous silks and sands, preparatory to the day of her ascension into homemaking. Nothing, perhaps, in her interesting life could she recall, in later days, as vividly as her old dower chest, and nothing, perhaps, did she prize as highly. In those days few chests were made of cedar, oak being the wood preferred. Using the chests, as did the old-time bride, merely to assemble her trousseau, its storage properties were not considered as they are today. Present-day development. Why the chest lost its popularity is hard to determine. It may be that moths, developing in the oak chest and devouring its contents, were a determining factor, or it may be simply a passing whim of society that relegated the chest. When red cedar came into favor as the universal chest material, repelling moths and other insects, and permitting of most beautiful finishes, the chest returned to its own. The present-day mother, the far-sighted mother, is instilling the dower chest notion into the hearts of her children, as did her great-grandmother years ago. It is not a sentimental whim which prompts her to do this, it is strictly a utilitarian one. Girls, the majority at least, will someday marry. If they have a chest they will sow and save to fill it, if not, they may come to the altar unprepared, or purchase at one time those things that their own labor and years of association should endear to them. Even if they never marry, bachelor girls must clothe themselves, and some even fit up small apartments in which to live, hence this saving will not be a loss. Cedar chests may be purchased ready-made, of course, but their rather high price prohibits their possession by some. Manual training students, or home craftsmen, will find in the chest a most attractive project of construction, and one made by a boy as a present to an older sister will give the chest, in her sight, an added charm. Chapter 3: How to build a simple chest. It is naturally assumed that the builder of a cedar chest knows the fundamental tool processes, as a project of this kind is no task for an absolute beginner to attempt, hence but little attention will be paid to processes that would ordinarily be known by the graduate of a grammar school. The mill-bill chest design number 1, illustrated in perspective in Figure 5, and whose working drawing appears in Figure 6, is a very simple construction. Its stock can be purchased glued up and sandpapered, coming to the builder, as in Figure 7, almost ready to assemble, or the boards can be secured surfaced on two sides, to be jointed, doweled, and finished by hand. Both methods will be considered in this chapter. The stock list, if the wood is to be glued up and sandpapered at the mill, should comprise the following pieces: 2 PCs. Red cedar for sides 3/4 times 18 1/2 times 38 2 PCs. Red cedar for ends 3/4 times 18 1/2 times 19 2 PCs. Red cedar for top and bottom 3/4 times 20 1/2 times 40 1 PC. Red cedar for feet 3/4 times 2 1/2 times 60 3 PCs. Red cedar for inside strips 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 36 inches 4 PCs. Red cedar for inside corners 1/3 times 1/3 times 18 1 PC. Red cedar for handles 1 1/2 times 2 times 12 1/4, Figure 5 cedar chest design No. 1 Figure 6 An exact checking of the mill bill, and the working drawing will show that an allowance has been made in some instances that will need to be cut to fit by the builder. For example, the sides are 1/2 wider and about 2 longer than the working drawing calls for. This allowance has been made so that the craftsman can secure exact dimensions with perfectly square ends. Figure 7 As surfaced and machine sanded stock is specified, all that remains for the builder to do is to square up the ends and edges, cut the feet and handles, and assemble. Sides and ends plane one edge of each side and end perfectly straight and square with the surfaces. Check these 4 working edges. Measure over 18 inch and with a straight edge, mark the width on each. Plane carefully to this line, keeping the edges square across. With the steel square, holding the blade against the working edges in each case, square lines across one end of each piece about 3/4. Saw about outside of these lines and plane down to them, testing constantly with the tri-square across the end grain and the steel square, the blade of which is held against the working edge. When perfectly straight and square, measure down 36 inch on the sides and 16 1/2 on the ends, square lines across, and repeat the sawing and planing. Top and bottom The top and bottom pieces are squared up in exactly the same way, but they finish 20 inches by 38 inches. The upper surfaces of each have their edges and ends carefully rounded, using a radius of 3/4. This is accomplished by planing and sandpapering with a rather coarse, and then a fine sandpaper. These parts are now ready to assemble, but this will not be discussed until the hand finishing of stock is described. Jointing and gluing wide stock. If stock that has been machine surfaced on 2 sides is purchased for the chest, the builder doing his own gluing, the following stock will be needed: 30 board feet red cedar, surface 2 sides to 1 PC. Red cedar for inside corners 1/3 times 1/3 times 72 1 PC. Red cedar for handles 1 1/2 times 2 times 12 1/4. Sewing up the stock. Figure 8 The stock will come in pieces from 4 to 10 wide and from 8 feet to 12 feet long. Place the strips side by side on the sawhorses, and work combinations whereby the greatest saving of stock will be effected. There should be about 2 inch allowed for jointing and squaring, making the sides and ends, rough, 20, and the top and bottom 22. Saw off the lengths, allowing about 2 inch over length in each case. Save the sawed off ends, if they are 7 inch or over in length, for the feet. Figure 9 Jointing. Mark each piece side A, side B, end A, end B, etc., so that they will not become mixed. Begin with one side, putting all other stock away. Determine by a plain stroke or 2 which way the grain runs in each piece, and mark this direction by means of arrows, as in Figure 8. Also, number the adjacent edges. Assuming the position of Figure 9, carefully run the jointer plane over all edges that come together. Hold it down on the knob when starting a cut, and hard on the handle when finishing. Keep the sides of the plane parallel to the sides of the board being planed. A few strokes should make the edge perfectly straight with the grain, when it should be tested with the tri-square to be certain that it is square with the surfaces. When it is straight as to length and square across, lay it aside and place the edge it is to join within the vise. Do exactly the same with this edge, and test it by placing the edge formally planed down on top of it, Figure 10. Sighting toward the light will show whether or not exact work has been accomplished. High spots will be easily detected and planed off. If there is a long, thin opening in the center of the two edges, it may be left, as the clamps will close it, and when the wood dries out, end opening of joints will be prevented. But this opening must not be more than 1/64, as the clamps might not pull it down and hold it if it were greater. Figure 10. Repeat with the other edges, and when all boards for one side have been joined, place them into position and test with the steel square, as in Figure 11. If they do not combine to form a straight surface, those edges that are not square across grain must be planed. Doweling. Although stock jointed and glued up at the mill is not doweled, stock hand jointed must be. Use dowel pins, placed about 8 apart, the end pins starting about 3 from the ends of the boards. Figure 11. To lay out the dowel holes, place the edges that are to be joined back to back in the vise. With a sharp knife and the tri-square, square lines across the grain. Mark intersecting lines with the grain with the marking gauge, running the spur in the exact center of the edges. At the intersections of the gauge and knife lines, bore holes about 1 deep in both boards, Figure 12. Slightly countersink these holes. Cut the dowel pins about 1 long, point their ends a little, and cut a shallow groove along the edge to allow the surplus glue to escape, and thus prevent splitting the boards. Gluing. Place the boards in position on the sawhorses near the glue pot. Have the glue heated, if hot glue is used, and all clamps in position at hand. Remember that you cannot stop to look for anything when the hot glue is once applied. Pieces this narrow will have little tendency to buckle, especially if the bar clamps are put on opposite sides, but it may be wise to have 4 hand screws ready with battens cut the correct length in case they do. Dip the dowels, one at a time, in the glue and drive in place along one edge of each board. Quickly tip this edge and its mate up, and apply a thin layer of glue to each. Drop them into position and drive them together. Repeat with the other edges, and place the bar clamps in position, as Figure 13 illustrates. Tighten the clamps until all the surplus glue is squeezed out, and apply the hand screws if the boards show any tendency to buckle. Figure 12. It is well to warm the boards slightly if hot glue is used. In case cold glue is used, allow it to stand 10 or 15 minutes before applying the clamps. It will stick better. Surfacing. After all 6 wide pieces have been glued up in the above manner, and allowed to dry overnight, the clamps are removed and the surfaces smoothed up. Scrape off as much glue that has dried on the surfaces as possible, as hard glue will dull the plane bit. Begin with a very sharp jack plane, and plane the surface down smooth. Cross-planing is allowable on red cedar on account of the knots, but be very careful not to rip up deep grooves. When planed as nearly flat as possible, scrape with a sharp cabinet scraper. This should not be held in the hand, but should be used in a scraper plane. Scraping should remove all rough spots from the wood. Finally, sandpaper the entire surface with number 1.5 sandpaper, and finish with number 0. Squaring. Cut these pieces to dimensions and square them up, as has already been described for the mill-glued stock. Pieces that have been ripped from the edges should be saved. Figure 13. Assembling. Figure 14 illustrates various joints used in chest construction. With the simple design taken as our model in this chapter, we will employ the plain, but nailing the pieces together with 8D finishing nails. It will be noticed from the working drawing that the sides are nailed onto the ends. To prevent splitting, a number of small holes should first be drilled through the sides. Apply glue to the ends before driving the nails in place. Joints used in chest construction: plain but dado and rabbit dovetail. Figure 14. When the sides and ends have been assembled, cut a stick the length of one diagonal of the box, and use this to test on the other diagonal. If the box is square, both diagonals will be the same length. Place the bottom side up and screw the bottom to the sides and ends. Use 1/3 number 8 flathead screws well countersunk. Bore the holes through the bottom rather large to allow for any expansion or contraction, and use about 12 screws. Triangular corner strips in the inside corners of the box. Triangular strips should be securely glued. They are made by ripping on the diagonal of the 1/3 square pieces, and should be made 17 long, figure 15. They help to strengthen the chest. Figure 15 feet. The working drawing gives a detail of the feet. 2 pieces 7-inch long and 2 1/2 wide are cut to shape as shown. Their adjoining ends are mitered, glued, and nailed. On the inside corner a block 1/3 square is glued to help strengthen the joint and to carry the caster. These feet are screwed onto the bottom piece. Handles may be purchased, but they are so easily made that they are not worth the expense involved. The working drawing gives a detail of a good shape, but this is only a suggestion. The inside is gouged out for a finger hold. The handles are attached with flathead screws from the inside of the box and glued. Methods of making the chest dust-proof. Figure 16. The cover. A good chest is dust-proof. There are 3 ways of rendering it so illustrated in figure 16. The first has false edges glued around the under edges of the top, this false edge extending down over the sides and ends. The third has a strip fastened to the top inside of the edges and ends, while the second is a combination of the other 2. In our example, the third method will be employed. Cut 2 strips 34 1/2 long from stock 3/4 square, and 2 pieces 15 long. Screw and glue them in place. Hinging 2 plain, but hinges 21-inch long with a 3/4 leaf will do on this chest. They may be let into both the top and the upper edge of the side piece, or entirely into the edge. Another method often used in schools is that of placing the hinges on the outside of the back and the underside of the top. This is the most simple as it involves no chiseling, and, since the chest is usually placed against a wall, does not look bad, especially if an ornamental hinge is used. 2 chains or desk supports should be used to prevent the lid from swinging way back and straining the hinges. See Figure 52, Chapter 7. Finishing directions for finishing and preparing the wood for finish are given in Chapter 5. Of course the nails should be well set and filled as explained. A French chest of the late 15th century, Gothic period, Cedar chest design No. 2 Figure 17. Chapter 4 Cedar chest designs. Variety in design is so essential in cabinet-making classes that a number of different styles of chests are presented in this chapter. Although a great many teachers follow the practice of giving the student a working drawing to follow, it is recommended that the designs herewith presented be used only as models, that from them each boy will combine, and add his own ideas to evolve what may be called an original design. Only by so doing will the student derive his greatest benefit from the work. Design No. 2 in Figure 18 is presented a perspective of the chest whose working drawing is given in Figure 17. This chest is very similar to design number 1 described in the previous chapter. Its dimensions are practically the same, but in this case, the ends are fastened to the sides, and the end grain, appearing on the front, is covered by a curved piece of cedar 1/3 wide. The feet also differ, as the detail shows. Figure 18 Cedar chest design No. 3 Figure 19 Figure 20 design No. 3 In this design we have a larger chest than the previous, but whose construction is the same. The end grain, appearing on the front, is covered with strips of copper. These may be put on as corners extending over the ends also, or merely as plates on the front, as Figure 20 illustrates. The feet are detailed with design number 1. Cedar chest design No. 4 Figure 21 Figure 22 design No. 4 One of the most popular chest designs is illustrated in Figure 21. In this, the edges are rounded, giving it an easy, graceful appearance. It requires careful, accurate work, as the joints cannot be covered with strips or copper, as with the previous styles. Cedar chest design No. 5 Figure 23 Figure 24 design No. 5 In Figure 24 is shown a chest whose design permits it to be used as a window seat when covered with a cushion. Its appearance is very attractive, as it has heavy, massive ends, giving it an air of solidity. The ends can be built up flush, as the drawing, figure 23, illustrates, or paneled. A 3/4 strip is glued to the front edge of the top, making it appear to be as thick as the ends. The drawings illustrate copper plates on the front, but if good work is accomplished, these may well be omitted. Cedar chest design No. 6 figure 25 figure 26 design No. 6A paneled chest, figures 25 and 26, looks well when accurate work has been done. It, of course, means a great deal of mortising and routing, but, where power machines are available, does not consume a great amount of time. A chest built up as previously described with 1/4 strips glued on will give the same effect. A study of both drawings will make the construction clear to the average student. Cedar chest design No. 7 figure 27 figure 28 design No. 7 design number 7, figures 27 and 28, is a rather odd design from the fact that it contains a drawer. It is built in the usual manner, but has 2 bottoms and an opening in the front for the drawer to slide into. It should be built of cedar throughout, but a slight saving can be effected if the lower bottom is of a cheaper wood or even a frame. Cedar chest design No. 8 figure 29 figure 30 design No. 8 This chest involves a little turning, but otherwise its construction is simple. A 3/4 piece is set into the upright end pieces of stock 1/2 times 1/3, and another piece mortised in between them at the top. This latter piece has had a handle turned in its center, and 2 round tenons on its ends. These tenons are glued into holes bored in the uprights. Figure 29 makes this construction clear. Aside from this, the construction is very similar to design number 5. Design No. 9 At first glance, figure 32 presents a chest of difficult design, yet a careful understanding of its construction will show it to be quite simple. The box is built up with plain butt ends, and 4 corner legs are cut out according to the detail on figure 31. A right angle groove is cut into the center of each leg, and this fits over the corners of the chest. Glue and long screws from the inside of the box hold them in place, as detailed in figure 33. The little brackets shown in the perspective are doweled onto the legs after the latter have been fastened in place. At the top and bottom strips of small molding may be cut by hand, or special mill orders will secure it from the dealers. The panels are made of similar moldings, but these may be omitted if desired. The top shows a raised panel. There are 2 methods used to secure this effect. In the most simple, the 3/4 top is built up and another, thinner piece, glued over it. If the shop has a veneer press, this method is very easy. Of course there is excessive weight when this construction is used. The alternate method is to build up a frame with either mortised or mitered ends, and set the 3/4 top into this frame. It can be secured with nails and glue from the underside. Cedar chest design No. 9 Detail of leg alternate methods of building up top figure 31 figure 32 details of design No. 9 Section of molding method of fastening corners to box bracket dowel to corner figure 33 Cedar chest design No. 10 Detail of leg detail of molding figure 34 design No. 10 Figure 35 Figures 34 and 35 illustrate a chest of the William and Mary period style. It is built up as the others have been with plain butt joints, and over the corners, as with design number 9, the legs are fastened. These are turned on a wood lathe, a quarter of the pieces being cut out. They can be cut after the turning is finished, or before. The latter plan is the more simple, as a frame must be constructed to hold the legs while being sawed if they have been previously turned. If the section is removed before turning, it is a good plan to make the 2 circular saw cuts through the middle of the piece without cutting through to the ends. This will permit good centers to be obtained, and it may prevent excessive chipping of the edges. The wood can be removed when the ends are cut off on the lathe, or they may be carefully chiseled out. The panel effect is secured with small moldings mitered at their corners. These may be omitted, if desired, without spoiling the appearance of the chest. Cedar chest design No. 11. Figure 36 Figure 37 Design NO. 11. This chest is a very simple design, and would not be too difficult a project for the average 8th grade student. The ends are butted against the front and back, and fastened with fine finishing nails. Corner blocks are used on the inside, of course. The bottom is a mitered frame, which is nailed to the box. The handles are worked out from small pieces of stock, 1/1/2 thick. The top is built up with a mitered frame, securely glued and nailed. Figure 36 is the working drawing, and Figure 37 presents a photograph of the finished chest. Cedar chest design No. 12. Figure 38 Figure 39 Design NO. 12. Figures 38 and 39 illustrate a chest very similar in construction to those already described, but one differing in mode of trimming. In this project decalcomania transfers are successfully used, a description of which will be found in Chapter 6. Cedar chest design No. 13. Figure 40 Figure 41 Design NO. 13. This very attractive chest is identical in construction with design number 12, but in this case the chest is embellished with two well-designed metal corners fastened with large-headed brass or copper nails. It will be noted that no corners are used at the back. However, it would not look out of place to fasten plates on the ends to give the appearance of corners. Cedar chest design No. 14. Figure 42 Figure 43 Design NO. 14. The only unique parts of the chest illustrated in figures 42 and 43 are the feet. After carefully forming them, they should be attached to the chest bottom before it is fastened to the box, as in this way the screws used to hold them can be evenly distributed. Cedar chest design No. 15. Figure 44 Figure 45 Design NO. 15. In figures 44 and 45, we have a number of departures from the chests previously described. The most noticeable of these is the edge around the top, which is built up from strips 1 3/4 inches square. The edges of these strips are carefully rounded and the outside tapered in toward the bottom. Another point to note is that the feet are not set in or out from the body of the chest, but are so fastened that they give the appearance of flush sides and ends. These latter are mitered together at the corners. Cedar chest design No. 16. Figure 46 Figure 47 Design NO. 16. This chest is almost identical in design with number 13, excepting that it has an overhanging top. When the box has been completed, a cove molding is glued and brad flush with the upper edges, and the top fitted over this molding. As it is impossible to secure this molding already cut from red cedar, it will be necessary to put in a special order for it at the mill or to work it out with a combination plane. Cedar chest design No. 17. Figure 48 Figure 49 Design NO. 17. There is nothing unusual about this chest, excepting possibly that it is longer than the average. The top is built up as described for design number 15. Cedar chest design No. 18. Figure 50 Figure 51 Design NO. 18. This chest is almost identical with design number 4. It is built in the same manner, but here we have decalcomania decorations applied, and the dimensions differ. When carefully constructed, this is one of the most attractive designs in the series. Cedar chest design No. 19. Figure 52 Figure 53 Design NO. 19. Figures 52 and 53 present another chest with paneled ends, and the sectional view in the working drawing shows the construction of them. The rails are mortised into the post, and on the front panel, the wide edge is relieved by attaching a small quarter-round. The end panel is set into the rails at the center, hence it is not necessary to use the molding here. Cedar chest design No. 20. Figure 54 Figure 55 Design NO. 20. With a proper selection of transfer designs, this chest is one of the most attractive that it is possible to build. Its construction is simple and it has the wide curved pieces over the end grain that were first shown in design number 2. Cedar chest design No. 21. Figure 56 Figure 57 Design NO. 21. Although larger than number 20, This chest is practically the same with the exception of its decoration. Decalcomanias are not used here, but hinge plates and a well-designed copper decoration on the front add the hit of relief so urgently desired. Cedar Chest Design No. 22, Figure 58 Figure 59 Design No. 22. A paneled chest very similar to design number 6, is shown in figures 58 and 59. In this case there are but two panels on the front and top, and the ends are fitted with corner plates. Underbed chest Figure 60 Figure 61 Underbed chest, as its title indicates. The chest design shown in figures 60 and 61 is meant to roll under the bed. It is a very simple construction, and most useful in small bedrooms and flats. Figure 62 Chest of Drawers Figure 63 Chest of Drawers. A chest of cedar drawers, Figure 62, has so many advantages that little need be said concerning it. Its additional room and separate compartments commend it highly. Its construction is exactly like the usual cabinet construction, all parts, wherever possible, being mortised and tenoned together. The detail of the drawer construction, Figure 64, shows the fronts to extend past the sides, the edges being rounded. This gives the chest a most pleasing appearance and renders it dust-proof. If desired, the upper section, instead of having a large drawer, can have a false drawer front and a bottom put in. The top can then be hinged and a high chest with two drawers will result. Or the top drawer may be divided into two smaller drawers with good effect. Detail of drawers Figure 64 Figure 65. Suggestive designs from commercial sources. Suggestions for design Figures 65 and 66 illustrate a few additional designs whose working drawings are not given. They may offer suggestions worthwhile when the builder is designing his own. The feet are especially suggestive. Figure 66. Suggestive designs from commercial sources. Chapter 5 The finishing of cedar. Red cedar, contrary to supposition, is not a hard wood to finish. Having a closed grain, it needs no filler, which greatly simplifies its finishing. The outside and the inner side of the cover, to prevent warping, should be finished, never the inside of the chest. Preparing the wood for finishing. The cedar chest should be prepared for finishing, as any other piece of furniture is prepared. All glue and rough spots should be carefully scraped and sandpapered until the surface is entirely free from defects. If the wood in the chest has been purchased glued up and machine sandpapered, it will need a final sandpapering with number 0 or number 00 sandpaper. If worked down by hand, it will need a great deal of scraping with a sharp scraper, a preliminary rubbing with number 1 sandpaper, and a final rubbing with number 0, working with the grain in each case. Careful dusting preparatory to the application of the first coat of finish is very necessary. Filling rough spots. As red cedar contains a great many knots, planing the wood by hand, and occasionally by machine, causes rough spots to occur around the knots. If these rough spots are shallow, they can be scraped out and sandpapered, but if they are deep, they must be filled. There are a number of methods of filling. The most simple, and least satisfactory, method is to fill them with water putty, a dry crack filler purchased in powder form and mixed with water. When it has hardened it can be rubbed down with sandpaper, and colored to match the surrounding wood. As this color will fade in time, this method is not recommended. A better method is to fill them with a colored wood filler. Secure a small can of natural paste wood filler, a little rose pink dry stain, and some Van Dyke brown dry stain. Thin the filler with turpentine or benzene and add a quantity of the Van Dyke brown, well stirred in. Compare this color with that of the knots around which you are going to fill, and add the rose pink until the correct shade of red is obtained. Apply this filler to the knots, and when perfectly dry, sandpaper down to an even surface. A third method, much slower than the other two, is the application of successive coats of colored shellac. To the ordinary shellac, add a little Bismarck brown dry stain until you get a color that will match, when dry, the wood surrounding the rough spots. Apply this and allow it to set. Sandpaper down and apply successive coats, rubbing down evenly after each until a level surface is obtained. Repeated coats of thin shellac will look better and stick better than a few heavy coats. Coloring the wood. Some people object to the white streaks of sap wood contrasting so strongly with the red heartwood, while others are of the opinion that this contrast is one of the beauties of red cedar. The author is of the opinion that the white wood is not objectionable if there is not too much of it. Just what quantity to allow is again a matter of personal choice, so no hard and fast rule can be laid down. To color the chest, prepare an aniline dye stain of red and brown. Cover the entire piece with a thin coat, then go over the lighter parts and streaks with a stronger coat. If carefully done, this should even up the color. If the maker does not mix his own stains, a red mahogany oil stain applied in the same manner will leave the same result. Thin the first coat out with benzene. Wax finish after filling and coloring. If the latter is desired, the kind of finish must be selected. The most simple is the wax, but it is very seldom used, almost never by cedar chest manufacturers. But since it is often employed by students and home craftsmen, it will be described. Over the dry surface apply a coat of thin shellac, either white or orange. When this has thoroughly dried, rub it down lightly with number 00 sandpaper, and apply a second coat. When this has set, repeat the rubbing, being very careful not to rub through the coat, especially on the edges and corners. Brush on the third coat of shellac and rub it down with a little boiled linseed oil placed on the number 00 sandpaper. This should leave a smooth, unpitted surface. Finally, apply a coat of prepared floor wax and allow it to stand overnight. Rub it briskly with a dry flannel cloth, bringing it to a good polish. If a still higher gloss is desired, put on a second coat of wax and allow it to stand about 30 minutes before rubbing off. This finish can be renewed from time to time with fresh applications of wax, and has the advantage over the varnished surface of not showing scratches as readily. Varnish finish. For a varnish finish apply but 2 coats of shellac in the manner described above, and 2 coats of high-grade rubbing varnish. The temperature of the room in which the varnishing is accomplished should be 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or over, and perfectly uniform. The room should be free from dust, and kept free after the varnish has been applied. Use an oval varnish brush, well dusted in the hand. Take up a brush full of the liquid as it comes from the can, and starting from the center of the top, spread it out to the edges. Where it drips over, take up the surplus with the end of the brush. The sides should be varnished by working down from the top edge. The inside of the cover should be supported so that the air can circulate around it, otherwise it would be very slow in drying. Allow about 5 days for the varnish to thoroughly dry in before rubbing it down. Then sprinkle powdered pumice stone over the surface, and rub it with a felt pad, about 4 inches by 5 inches, moistened with water. Rub all surfaces while they are in a horizontal position if possible. Rub lightly and evenly with the grain, and be very sure that you do not go below the coat in any place, edges especially. Wash the pumice stone off with water and rub dry with a clean cloth, after which the second coat is applied in the same manner. Allow this coat about 5 days in which to dry when the polishing process can be started. Rub it down as before with pumice stone and water, then remove the fine scratches left by the pumice stone by rubbing in a similar manner with rotten stone and water. Always rub with the grain if possible. Next, moisten the hand with linseed oil and sprinkle a little rotten stone in it. Very lightly go over the entire surface with this combination, rubbing with the grain. When perfectly smooth, clean the surface with a very soft cloth saturated with clean oil, and rub dry with cotton batting. To finish the polish, go over the entire surface with another soft pad of cotton batting saturated with some good furniture polish, or a thin mixture of linseed oil, turpentine, and sweet oil. This should produce an extremely brilliant and satisfactory finish if good materials have been used and care exercised in their application. Oil finish. If an oil finish is desired, go over the wood, after it has been filled and colored, with a coat of hot linseed oil. When thoroughly dry, wipe off the grease spots, if there are any, and give the wood a coat of shellac. This can be followed with a second coat of shellac, rubbed down with pumice stone and oil, or the varnish finish, as described above, can be applied over the second coat of shellac. Enamel finish. There is a modern demand evinced for enameled and painted furniture, especially in some of the period designs. To meet this demand, cedar chest manufacturers have recently introduced chests enameled on the outside and left natural on the inside, the designs being made to correspond with various periods, Adam and William and Mary being predominant. Old ivory, a soft shade of cream, is the most popular finish, especially when decorated parts are striped with orange, while black enamel, striped with gold, is second best. These finishes are applied in the conventional manner, the ivory enamel being undercoated with flat white. On school-made chests these finishes are not to be recommended. In the first place, they are only temporary fads, pretty creations to catch the popular fancy that may be old-fashioned next year. And secondly, there is no good reason for hiding the natural beauties of red cedar with enamels. Carefully selected wood, with its wonderful contrasts of sap and heartwood, certainly give color enough. Lacquer finish. The wood should be prepared as directed in the preceding paragraphs, and after it has been well dusted, a coat of lacquer is applied. This is the regular cotton lacquer, banana oil, and it must not be confounded with the wood lacquers now so extensively advertised. When dry it is sanded lightly and given a second coat, the spreading of which must be done quickly and without overlapping. Lacquer serves not only as a protection for the wood, but it also acts to keep the odor of the cedar confined in the wood, and it protects the wood against moisture better than any of the finishing coatings. Over this second coat, apply a bit of thin wax, or a coat of rubbing varnish, as desired. This method of finishing cedar chests is one of the most common in the furniture factories, as it preserves the full beauty of the grain. Chapter 6 Copper trimmings. After the finish on the chest has thoroughly dried, any copper trimmings desired can be applied, providing, of course, that the appearance of the chest will be improved by them. If good joints have been obtained on the corners, copper corners will help but little, but if the joints are open, well-designed corners will cover up the defects without detracting from the appearance of the chest. As a rule, handles of cedar, well executed, look better than metal pulls attached to the ends of the box, but if metal corners are employed the pulls should also be of the same. If a lock is attached, it will need an escutcheon, and hinge plates on the cover go well where the other metal trimmings are adapted. 16-gauge copper is the metal usually employed. Brass looks well, but it does not harmonize with the red cedar quite as attractively as copper. The design should be first worked out on paper, and transferred to the metal by using carbon paper. Care should be exercised with the designing. A poor design looks worse than no design at all. Copper bands with straight edges certainly give a pleasing appearance, as Figure 29 shows. The student will do well to cooperate with the art teacher when designing his trimmings. The illustrations in this chapter offer suggestions for design, Figure 67 showing escutcheons, Figure 68 pulls, Figure 69 hinge plates, and Figure 70 corners. Although these designs do not emphasize it, the same motif should be used in every case. For example, straight bands across the top should not be used with fancy sword corners. A reasonably plain hinge plate will not look well on a chest with very elaborate pulls and corners. Care should be given this designing that the different parts do not show incongruity. Escutcheons. The escutcheon can be small and plain, or rather long and fancy. Figure 67 illustrates both kinds. The design should be symmetrical about the vertical center line. The keyhole size is dependent upon the size of the key furnished with the lock, and its distance from the upper edge is governed by the depth of the keyhole in the lock. Escutcheons. Shaded portions represent sawed-out parts, 1 inch Figure 67 pulls 1 inch Figure 68 hinge plates, 1 inch Figure 69 corners, 1 inch Figure 70. After the design has been carefully traced on the metal, it should be cut out with a fine metal saw in a jeweler's saw frame. The edges can then be filed smooth. The inside cutting is accomplished by first drilling a small hole, then inserting the saw and refastening it in the frame. Holes drilled for the tacks will complete the construction. Pulls. The backs of the pulls are sawed out exactly like the escutcheon, the handle being the most difficult part to construct. On the even wire design, a piece of heavy round copper can be bent to shape. It is fastened through a piece of thinner metal, which, in turn, is spread out after passing through a slot sawed in the plate, figure 71. Those of uneven designs, the first for example, can be sawed and filed from a piece of copper 1 inch thick, or, if the school teaches molding, a wooden pattern. The shape and size of the pull can be made, a mold taken from it, and a copper casting made in the mold. A little filing and polishing will put the metal pull in excellent shape. Where the wire is thicker in the middle, it can be hammered out or filed before bending, as in figure 72. The boring of the nail holes in the plate will complete the construction. Figure 71. Figure 72. Hinge plates. Hinge plates are used on the cover to give the chest a more massive appearance. They extend to the back edge, or are bent over it. After the design has been traced on the metal, they are sawed, filed, and the nail holes drilled as before. Corners are made like hinge plates, with the addition of a right angle bend in the middle. This bending is accomplished by placing the metal between two hardwood pieces screwed up in a vise, and driving the upper half over with a mallet. In some instances, figure 19 is an example, the corner does not go around the end, a flat plate covering the end grain being fastened on the front only. Finish. The metal trimmings should be rubbed very briskly with fine steel wool, and polished with water and pumice stone. They will keep this polish if coated with banana oil or some other good lacquer. This finish should be applied before the trimmings are fastened on the chest. Nails. Copper nails with various size heads can be obtained, or brass-headed tacks copper coated can be used in their stead. The copper plating can be done by any plating concern, and at a very small cost. Decalcomania transfers. Figure 73. Chest decorated with Decalcomania transfers. A line of chests has recently appeared on the market with decorations that appear to be hand-painted. Figure 73 gives an example. This form of decoration results from the using of Decalcomania transfers, and, since it is very attractive and easily applied, deserves notice in this chapter. The transfers are applied in colors to the Decalcomania paper, in which condition they reach the consumer. The face of the transfer is sized with a thin coat of varnish, the paper is placed in position on the chest, and is then soaked off, very much as the small boy soaks off the old-fashioned transfer pictures from his hand or arm. The operation consumes but very little time, and when properly done, the decoration is as much a part of the piece as the finish itself. It is applied over the final finish, or it can be put on before the last coat of varnish is placed. Many excellent designs are available, especially in marquetry and pearl inlay where the work has been reproduced so carefully as to challenge detection. A chest decorated with a fine band of inlay lines of black and holly presents a wonderfully attractive appearance. Decalcomania transfers can be obtained only from the manufacturers. The Myaccord Company Incorporated, Chicago. An Italian chest of the 15th century, made in Florence about 1475. Chapter 7. Matting boxes. Figure 74 is from a photograph of a matting box, a form of chest construction not devoid of popularity, as its neat appearance and simple construction make it worthy of considerable favor. Figure 74. Most matting boxes are made from wood other than cedar, cypress, redwood, etc., most any stock that can be secured in wide pieces, thus doing away with gluing up. The pieces are simply nailed or screwed together, corner strips glued in, and the matting applied. Such simple construction makes this a favorable project for grammar grade students. How to make a matting box. California redwood is recommended, as it is light, straight-grained, and does not warp easily. Dimensions can be secured from the working drawings of the cedar chests given in the previous chapters. The flat surfaces will need little planing by hand since they will be entirely covered on the outside. The edges should be smoothly finished, especially the upper edges, and the underside of the top should be planed and sandpapered. Figure 75. Figure 76. Cut the sides and ends to the desired shape. Figures 75 and 76 offer excellent suggestions, and square the ends of all four pieces. Nail or screw the boards together, and glue in triangular corner strips on the inside. Nail the bottom in through the sides and ends, making the nail holes in the ends about 3 times as wide as the nails to allow for expansion and contraction, and give the sides a rather loose fit for the same reason. Fit the top carefully and round its upper edges. If the board is not flat or glued up from narrow pieces, it may be well to glue and nail strips on its underside to straighten it and prevent warping, as Figure 77 illustrates. Shellac over the outside and inside of all pieces with at least 2 coats of shellac, sandpapering the second on the inside. This is also done to prevent warping. Figure 77 putting on the matting. The natural colored floor matting without decoration of any kind is to be preferred. Trim off its thick edges, and cut the pieces carefully to fit the surfaces, planning on the seams coming where they will be covered with the strips of cane. Allow these pieces to soak in warm water for 2 or 3 hours, then tack them to their respective surfaces. Use ordinary carpet tacks with large heads, or matting staples. Stretch the matting very tight over the surface as the tacking proceeds, and when the water dries out a perfect fit will be assured. Covering the seams and edges. Split bamboo makes the best covering for the seams and edges, as it blends so well with the matting. Small fish poles may be secured, soaked in hot water, and carefully split with a sharp knife on a diameter, as each section should be semicircular. Split bamboo porch screens, at one time so popular, can be taken apart and used, or strips may be purchased from a manufacturer of split bamboo fish poles through some sporting goods dealer. Cut the strips the exact lengths desired, being very careful to make good joints. Drill small holes where the nails will come, and fasten with roundhead brads or brass escutcheon pins. Curves that require much bending can be soaked in hot water until pliable before placing. If a little decoration is desired on the bamboo, hold it over a flame at intervals, scorching the surface brown. Dust this off and shellac the strips before attaching them. If it is impossible to secure bamboo of any kind, small strips of any wood stained or white enameled will serve very well. Place the hinges and chain, and the box is complete. Making the box moth-proof. If a cedar chest has been constructed and poorly finished, a covering of matting will greatly improve its appearance, and without impairing its moth-proof qualities, if it is not finished on the inside. If an ordinary matting box has been made, it can be rendered moth-proof by putting in a bottom of red cedar, or covering the bottom with cedar shavings, also mixing shavings in with the contents of the box when storing them. A chest used at the end of the 14th century. Index page. Characteristics of red cedar: 14 chest design number 2, 31 chest design number 3, 33 chest design number 4, 35 chest design number 5, 37 chest design number 6, 39 chest design number 7, 41 chest design number 8, 43 chest design number 9, 43 chest design number 10, 47 chest design number 11, 49 chest design number 12, 51 chest design number 13, 53 chest design number 14, 55 chest design number 15, 57 chest design number 16, 59 chest design number 17, 61 chest design number 18, 63 chest design number 19, 65 chest design number 20, 67 chest design number 21, 69 chest design number 22, 71 chest of drawers, 75 coloring the wood, 79 copper corners, 88 copper nails, 88 copper pulls, 87 copper trimmings, 82 corner strips, 27 cover, 29 decalcomania transfers, 88 depletion of the cedar supply, 11 doweling, 22 enamel finish, 80 escutcheons, 82 feet, 27 filling rough spots, 78 finishing, 29 finishing cedar, 78 finishing copper, 88 gluing, 23 handles, 27 hinge plates, 88 hinging, 29 jointing, 21 jointing and gluing, 20 joints used in chest construction, 26 lacquer finish, 81 log houses of cedar, 9 making the box moth-proof, 93 making the chest dust-proof, 28 matting boxes, 90 mill bill, 17 New England chest, 15 oil finish, 80 old Italian chests, 15 placing bamboo, 92 placing matting, 92 preparing wood for finishing, 78 present-day development, 16 red cedar, 9 sawing up stock, 20 sides and ends, 19 simple chest design, 17 squaring up, 25 suggestive designs, 77 surfacing, 24 top and bottom, 20 underbed chest design, 73 varnish. Finish, 56 wax finish, 79 where cedar abounds, 9 William and Mary design, 47. Transcriber's notes page 15 changed. Who kept their dowry of rich velvets to? Who kept their dowry of rich velvets page 93 changed, without impairing its moth-proof qualities to, without impairing its moth-proof qualities. Asterisk 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 end of the Project Gutenberg ebook Cedar chests. How to make them asterisk 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 updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works. So the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission, and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg electronic works, to protect the Project Gutenberg concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg license available with this file, or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Electronic Works 1.a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark or copyright agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg electronic work, and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation, or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States, and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, We hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing, or creating derivative works based on this work, or any other Project Gutenberg work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away, or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook, or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7, or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work, or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links, or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary, or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII, or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg website at www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII, or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg license, as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about Donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing or by email, within 30 days of receipt, that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f. 1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe, and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate, or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2. Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty, or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3. Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4. Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5. Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg work. And C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg. Project Gutenberg is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's EIN, or Federal Tax Identification Number, is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84116, 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form, accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform, and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.